Hi, I'm Kelley Berg, and I'd like to welcome you to my show, one of two shows I currently have at Gallery Route 1 from May 30th to July 5th. The one we're going to talk about right now is All the Time in the World, and it is a selection of portrait work that I did over the last year of people in my life, my friends and family. My process is to work from memory and from photos that I've taken of the people I spend most of my life with. So these portraits are people that I see every day, or in some instances, wish I saw every day. The name of the show, All the Time in the World, is a poignant reminder of the thing we most wish we had and seldom do. I took the opportunity this past year to spend a lot of time looking at the people who make up my emotional community, and it was a wonderful experience to spend all the time I could, all the time I needed, looking closely at them and painting them. The goal I had for the project was to gain an understanding of portraiture, to change my own understanding of the process of catching a likeness, and ultimately to be less in the chase of a likeness and more in the engagement with the human being and my relationship with them. Ultimately, what I discovered, and I think where many artists get to, is that less is more in terms of the material. The more feeling one can express through the fewest marks can sometimes have the greatest impact. And sometimes, as you can see with the last painting, it's just all about having a good time. Q is for Love is a celebration of pride. Upon finding that my show was corresponding with Pride Month, I took an opportunity to really think about some of the artists, of whom there are many, many, who have inspired my own practice, informed what I know about art, and who've kept me going through their own beautiful perseverance and tenacity. 16 etchings of artists is a selection of writers, makers, rebels, and the process that I used was copper plate etching and chincolet. It's a rather involved process, but it's one that has many, many mysteries and is so much fun. I do this work at Kelley Art Institute in Berkeley, where I'm a resident and a board member. Each of these makers has a particular importance or significance to me. Jeanette Winterson. Photographer and storyteller, Dwayne Michaels. Everyone's most favorite tortured painter, Francis Bacon. British marvel painter Maggie Hamling. South African visual activist Zanele Muholi. Cy Twombly. Rose Valland, who is not an artist, but is the reason you've gotten to see much of the European art you've grown up looking at. Sir David Hockney. Writer and essayist James Baldwin. Painter Agnes Martin. Ellsworth Kelley. Righteous Fury himself, David Wojnarowicz. Robert Rauschenberg. Mr. Mischief, John Waters. Theatrician extraordinaire, Michael Anthony Berg, my brother. Chanteuse and raconteuse, Justin Vivian Bond.
My name is Tanya Wilkinson, and this is my series of mixed media artworks called Ruling the Little Girls. Ruling the Little Girls is, broadly speaking, about gender conformity and how it impacts girls and women. 2 years ago, in 2024, I emailed 40 women. I tried to choose people who are across a broad range of ages, heritages, religions, backgrounds. Not all of them still identify as women, but all of them were raised as girls. 35 women responded, and I had asked them, tell me the rules you were raised with, particularly tell me the rules that seem to be aimed primarily at little girls. And they told me many, many stories, many, many rules. And I sifted through the stories and chose rules to then embroider on these little dresses. I chose which rules of the many that I was told, chose which rules to use based on two things, which ones were repeated, and for instance, stay thin was repeated a great deal, as you might imagine. And I also chose them based on which ones hit me the hardest. And an example of that would be this one here, never talk about yourself, which, you know, is so poignant to me anyway. And I like to begin by telling a brief story about the first time these pieces were shown in public. And about a year and a half ago, I had completed 5 of the 17 pieces in the series, and they were shown for the first time to the public at Open Studio in San Francisco. And a young man came into the studio. He was very drawn to be nice to everyone, which was back at the beginning of this video. And he spent a bit of time engaged with the piece, looked at it very closely, and then he came over to me and said, well, you know, I have a little girl, a little daughter, and I am teaching her to be nice to everyone. What's wrong with that? Why shouldn't I teach her to be nice to everyone? And I said, okay, are you nice to everyone? And at first he was kind of defensive. He said, oh, of course I'm nice to everyone. But then he was thoughtful. He's a sincere guy, wanted to have an honest conversation. And so he said, well, of course I'm not nice to everyone. It's not safe to be nice to everyone. You can't really afford to be nice to people who, for instance, would take advantage of you. And my response to that was to say, great. And as long as you're making sure that your daughter feels empowered to make those same choices, those same discernments about who she's going to be nice to, then yeah, it's not a problem. But as we all know, these things are often conveyed to children in a lopsided way, so that they feel compelled to act in certain ways, or to at least try to act in those ways, even if they're very conflicted about it. So I tell this story in part because one of the questions that comes to me a lot about this series is, do these rules really still apply? Are they really still an issue? It's a subset of one of those, isn't feminism done with its work now? You know, aren't these rules just a sort of sad artifact of a painful history? And although gender conformity is no longer as strong as it was, I think it is still an issue, and it still needs to be thought about and talked about. And the thing that art can do, that a reasoned argument cannot do, is convey the emotional impact of gender conditioning, the way that these conditioning comments, rules, modeling, it's in the narratives around us, TV, advertising, books, examples, criticisms, the way that all of these things are internalized by children when they're very small, which is why I chose the tiny little dresses, the infant dresses and toddler dresses, because I wanted to convey the vulnerability of the child who's receiving these directives from everyone around them and from the culture around them, receiving these rules, receiving these constraints long before they're able to reason about them, think about them, or push back against them. Some of these have been more popular with people than others. Well, popular might not be exactly the right word, but people have had a stronger reaction to some than others. This one, Don't Be Too Needy, has gotten a lot of intense response. The one we saw a few minutes ago, Let Him Win, also. And then the other thing I did 13 toddler and infant dresses, and then I did 4 doll clothes. And the purpose behind that was to kind of reference the way in which play is part of conveying gender rules. The way girls play, the way they're encouraged to play, the toys they're given, these are all part of it. And as I say, it's not as intense as it used to be, but it's still present.
Hi, I'm Z. Morvitz, and I want to give you a little tour of my show, Glyphs. They are about drawing and about collage. I took very small drawings out of my notebooks. Each one of these was a drawing in a notebook. and I scanned them, and then I arranged them in grids. I did this for about a year, and this is the last of the grid series for now. And I became I began to long for drawing directly instead of scanning and then pasting in. So these two pieces that you see here are simply drawn directly onto the paper. And then I used watercolor and ink to make them, enhance them somewhat. But I had lots of little cutout bits of drawings at the end of my year of making grids. And so I decided to turn them loose and see how they would work with each other. It's another way of working spontaneously, which is something I like to do. And so each of these are collages of these small notebook drawings. And I did find relationships between them that kind of interested me. They're on a handmade Mexican paper, but the drawings themselves are printed on kozo paper, Japanese kozo paper.